Welcome to the Dennis Year Effect podcast. I just want to make it clear I am registered independent. Today, we have someone who is actually very well known in the community, actually, who has a lot of great things that she's doing. We're going to touch a little bit about what's going on in Virginia with Winsome. We're also going to be talking about the way we vote as African American, Blacks folks. What are our views and why we still vote a certain way. Now, so today we have the one and only Shirley Chisholm. Miss Shirley, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I thought you was gonna say I am fantabulous.
Fantabulous.
Well, good to have you today. It's a pleasure to have you, and you're someone I highly respect in the community. So let the audience know who you are. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then we can move on from there.
My name is Shirley Chisholm Campbell. I was raised here in Central Florida, born in the Caribbean. Born in the military base, traveled to the Caribbean, raised here in Central Florida. Started politics about 30 years ago. I'm working with political candidates and NAACP, the Democratic Party, and so forth. So really versed with
Nice.
politics.
Well, that's good. I have to disclose. Miss Shirley said, "Hey, listen, you need to be more involved in the community." I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Listen, when I have events, I'm going to send them to you." So for the first time, I actually, with the
the NAACP.
NAACP, I went on this event, which is pretty interesting stuff. And also I went to the Haines City
Political debate.
political debate in Haines City,
Yes.
which is pretty cool. Like these are things you watch on TV and you kind of like see people in the podium and then, they talking and then you see the audience down there and then it was pretty cool. So that was actually the first time I was I get to involve in things like that. So I want to say thank you. Right?
You're welcome.
Of course. The first thing we're going to be covering is Virginia. And I know we're going to share the screen with you real quick to talk to you about, the rise of Black conservatives. So let's go ahead and play the clip real quick to see exactly what's going on. And then we're going to elaborate a little bit.
The current lieutenant governor announced her Republican candidacy for 2025's gubernatorial race.
With your support, we can secure the future of Virginia and make sure that the values that we cherish remain strong.
Sears is a Jamaican immigrant. Her family moved to New York when she was 6. She's also a Marine veteran.
The story like mine, a Jamaican immigrant, a United States Marine, a former delegate, and now your lieutenant governor. That story is only possible in America.
So when it comes to Black conservative and you're looking at what's going on over there in Virginia. Now, this is African American, really from Jamaica, and she used to be a Democrat. She transitioned to become a Republican, and we're talking about conservative views in the Black community. What is your input on that?
Well, I feel that she started out as a Democrat, but then as time changed, she discovered that she had a lot of ways or thoughts that the Republican Party benefits from. I feel the more educated you get, the more skills you get, work-wise and so forth, your mindset changes. You think a little differently. You want more for your family. So you start reaching out and discovering new entities.
Gotcha. Well, with her playing this role right now, right? And really, it's not just Black switching to become more conservative. There's a lot of across the line. We can talk about the vice president. We can talk about what is the name of this young lady? Is it Chelsea?
Oh, okay. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, yes.
So there's a lot of movement going on. So it's not just in the Black community, but when we see, like I'm going towards TikTok and Instagram, and I'm watching a lot of different videos, and you mentioned something, the more educated you are, you start having different views. Do you think perhaps some of the people who still vote certain way is probably because they haven't fully do their thorough research, would you say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's good. So I'm looking at this, I don't want to say young lady, but transitioning from the Democratic Party. Now you're running as a Republican and you from Jamaica. And she mentioned in her speech that's something that only happened in America. So when it comes to, I mean, you've been involved in politics for a while, and when it comes to, let's just say, our Blacks vote, we're just gonna transition into a different sector here. When it comes to Black have conservative views, but yet still vote Democrats. Why do you think that is?
Our history, our parents, our community. It's what we know. We're afraid to move out and learn about other entities. So we stay stagnant.
Okay.
With this, social media has broadened our horizons so that we could now see what's going on in other countries and other places and other states. So that's why they say that the younger generation is more open-minded to change.
You mentioned something that is kind of key. I would refer to that as a paradigm shift, really. And me myself, I am an immigrant, right? And coming over here to America, I'm like diehard Democrat. Why? Well, I realize it's simply because Democrats are well, in some ways, they have more lenient towards immigrants, right? So the program they have, it's perceived as if they're more open arms, so that actually get us to vote a certain way as well. I remember doing the Obama, when Obama was running. Was he against 2008? Who was he running against? Is it McCain?
He was McCain.
2008.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in front of the TV now, not only because he was Black, we're going to have a first Black president. This is who I want to win. But really, simply because we vote Democrats. Like everyone I know is a Democrat in our community. And as you getting older, you just get a habit to vote a certain way, So when you look at a lot of the Blacks, right, I can say, and I don't know if you can attest, let me know. I can say when you look at our family structure, what we believe in as, Blacks, a lot of the views are really conservatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, for example, Christianity, a lot of African American, we all Christians.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I want you to elaborate a little bit. I know you mentioned why we do it is because of habits, but I want you to elaborate a little bit, maybe some personal experience, maybe something you got to share. I want you to speak more.
As a Democrat, I've always believed in everything that our parents believed in. And as I stated, as time went on and we started learning about other sectors of life, our mindset changed. Another thing is entrepreneurship. Once you're self-employed or work for yourself, you don't think in that one lane anymore.
Yes.
You start traveling over to the other side, trying to see exactly how they're able to do certain things. And then we jump into that as well. Not saying that we're full leaving from our Democratic sectors to the Republican sector, but we're right in the middle, just trying to research what's going on. And then we may like what we see. We may like the idea that we're able to climb through certain trenches.
So, I can agree. Entrepreneurship play a major role. And because when you get into business, my own perspective, you're getting into business, someone is getting into business, depending on the type of business, a lot of the time you got to figure things out. Absolutely. And that type of thinking comes where you have to think on your own, right? For example, I run an insurance firm, and as an immigrant coming here, and right now we're over 250 agents. We start with 10 agents. And it's all about growing this company, but I had to learn a lot of things. And my background doesn't even relate. So sometimes I sit back and think, and I said, okay, I used to be in culinary for 11 years. And to me, I don't want to say that was a dream job, but I was pretty comfortable. I was extremely comfortable. And I never question anything because I come in, I clock in, and you give me my paycheck and I'm gone. Right.
Right.
Now, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, I think, and it's all races, I would say, but since we're talking about the blacks, I think if we focus more towards the solution of all of us or most of us become entrepreneurs, it comes with a sense of responsibility where we have to do some thorough research.
Mhm.
Now, one of the people I follow a lot mentioned says whenever you're in business, you have to understand what's going on in politics.
Absolutely.
And I believe, and you can tell me what you think about that. I believe at certain point, if you don't understand what's going on in politics and business, your business may end up suffering because depending on certain administration, you got to pivot and adjust in business. Make sense? So that's what actually come with an aspect of thinking for yourself. And I think this is a good bridge where most blacks, can actually start seeing a different perspective when it comes to politics, depending on the type of business they have.
Well, I think it's any business that you
Mhm.
have. You have to depend on politics and what's going on in your surroundings. If you're sitting home every day and you don't have any goals or aspirations, obviously all you're going to focus on is what's in your circle.
Hmm.
But once you're out there and you're trying to set up for employees, you're trying to set up for finance, you need to know what's going on in the political arena.
I agree. What do you think of those who have the mindset that um, everything or most things has been strategically set up to target black folks, and because of that, it is a challenge for us to become, wealthy or better individuals?
I don't believe in that.
Tell me more.
The reason why I don't believe in that is because it's all your mindset.
Yes.
It's all what you want to obtain in your life.
Hmm.
Um, I don't believe in looking at myself as an African American,
Hmm.
and that's why I have the struggle. I don't have a struggle. I need to get out there. I need to learn as much as I can and accomplish whatever goals I set aside for myself.
I agree.
If I need to understand how I'm going to be able to grow my business, I'm going to go out to different, functions or political arenas and find out who's who can be the one to help me with procurement, who can help with education, who can help with different sectors. Once I know that, then we can go ahead and keep moving. But we cannot do the blame game. I
Mhm.
don't allow the blame game around me, and I don't allow any of my staff to do the blame game. We have to do it for ourselves and with our political attendants that's running for office.
I like that.
Know what their platform is.
I like that. Now, do you believe when it comes to our communities, um, we do have a lot of social programs that are targets towards to help the blacks. Do you think perhaps that could be a barrier to actually to have that type of way of thinking?
Well, we all need help.
Hmm.
We all need education. And we do have programs that are here. They have the first Fresh Start Initiative for business owners. They have childcare initiatives to help families that want to go to work and create a business to have childcare for their children. So we need those programs in our community. Do we need to solely depend on it at 100%? Absolutely not. We're supposed to start there and move on, spread our
Hmm.
wings.
Speaking of that, and start and then move on. I forgot what I was. Probably some TikTok video. I mean, my algorithm pick up a lot of stuff that has to do with politics.
Oh,
So
yeah.
somebody
Oh,
was
yeah.
somebody was talking about housing, Section 8.
Ah,
And how this program is actually meant for you to help you
uh-huh.
for the first few years of your life, and then you can get back and kind of like
Yeah,
enjoy life on your own.
that's right.
But we have people 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and Section 8. That's just receiving it. I don't know how familiar you are with this type of program, but do you believe that could be one of the resources that kind of damage our culture as well? For you know,
I feel if that was the case, we have Section 8 housing for so many years. I think that's a great opportunity to save
Mhm.
for when we're ready to buy our own home.
Yes, I agree.
It's a great opportunity to save because remember, the income is going to be not as high as most. So that's also enough opportunity to save for education for your children
Mhm.
and to be able to create a legacy for your family.
It's good.
So we need it for a
W-
certain amount of time.
For a certain amount of time. That was going to be
Absolutely.
my question. Okay, so you don't think we need it forever, or we shouldn't
Not
be there?
forever.
Okay.
You know, the places up north, they have met individuals that have lived in uh, apartments or places there that there's subsidized housing as well.
Mhm.
And they've lived there for like 20, 30 years. And those are the ones who are saving enough to come down to sunny Florida and buy their
Ah,
homes.
ah,
Yes, absolutely.
that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
So there's a reason for it. There's a reason it's high.
That is great. That is great. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next subject. I appreciate the conversation, and um, the last thing I really want to talk about is, as we mentioned, is tariff, right? And I have certain views when it comes to tariffs, but there's an article that we want to share with you as you're gonna be going over,
Mhm.
and you can actually scroll for us. And you know, tariffs to me depend on your knowledge on it. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I actually understand the fundamentals on how it works and why the current administration is currently pushing tariffs, right? But yeah, let's share a screen real quick, um, so we could see the articles we're gonna go over, so you can have the reference point on where we're going.
I think it is. But
Yeah, some people think it's a bad thing for business, and they just solely stay there,
Yeah.
and without going to the next layer. Um, but yeah, so if you wanna, I don't know if you could see.
yeah. As we were stating that, why are tariffs bad for business and the economy? A lot of people like to explore how tariffs impact business costs. Me personally, I feel that the United States and the reason why our president is really focusing on it is because the United States has also always been really responsible and want to make sure that we pay for
Mhm.
what we receive.
Yes.
So these other countries will charge us X amount of dollars to bring in their merchandise into our country
Hmm.
and then turn around and charge us. So that's the part right there I think is unfair.
Gotcha.
You know, you you're charging us and you go up. The prices go up throughout the years. And then we're turning around and purchasing the products. So let's turn it around. Why not send it here for free and
Mhm.
we pay you for your products?
It's a good way to put it. It's a good way to put it. And when it comes to tariffs, most people they focus on the higher cost of goods, and which is partly true, right? Okay, so for example, Trump put a 25% tariff on Mexico, 25% tariff in Canada, and all of a sudden, okay, oh, we going to pay that as the American people. Okay, well, it's partial true, and we're going to be paying it for a while before they have to pivot and adjust.
Right.
Because the thing behind tariffs is, if you look at those two countries, you put tariffs on 25%,
Mhm.
over 70% of what they sell is to America
Or more.
or more. Yes. Now, they go ahead and come and say, "Oh, you put a 25% on us, we're gonna put a 25% on you." But
Mhm.
less than 10% of what we export to you is less than 10%. So who's taking the bigger hits? They are. They are by default. So for those of you watching who haven't go the second layer when it comes to tariffs, There is a reason I believe Honda is one of the most recent one
Mm.
who
Oh.
actually said, hey, we're going to move our production to America. Why? Because they don't want to pay tariffs,
Right.
right? Hey, we're going to start doing our production for, I don't know if you heard, I think Apple going to contribute, I think, $500 billion. Why? Because they don't want to pay tariffs. They don't want to pay taxes. So what big companies are doing when it comes to the tariffs, and that's the second layer, most people need to understand, this current administration is somewhat playing chess. If you're emotional about it, then of course you're gonna see the bad things,
Right.
right? But if you're looking at the strategy where now people are coming to this country to produce their goods so they can avoid paying the tariffs, that's the end goal for this current administration. What is your feel on that?
Yeah. If they can bring their merchandise here, create their merchandise, and then sell it to us, then they're avoiding that cost. So I articulate exactly what's happening. Do we agree? Well, it really just depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yes, it depends. I believe, like recently, Trump mentioned reciprocal tariffs, right? And I think that's just my own opinion. If he had led with that language initially,
Right.
he wouldn't receive as much pushbacks. So,
well, I don't feel the average voter understands what that means.
What do you mean? Like, why do you think they don't understand?
They don't understand it.
They don't understand it.
No.
When you say, and I'm gonna just,
see, you're a little different. You understand politics. You understand what their goals are. The average person doesn't.
How do we educate them?
By shows like this.
By the Dennis-Year effect? Is that what you're doing? The Dennis-Year effect?
Dennis-Year effect.
We got to have a different way of thinking.
We got to have a different way.
Yeah, we got to have a different way of thinking. Reciprocal tariffs, what it means, and that's what Trump's saying. I don't want you to think I'm talking about Trump to say, hey, James is a Trump supporter. No, I actually, there are some things I like about the administration and there's something I do not like about the administration. And I believe this is one thing in America that we kind of lose our way, meaning that if we have different views, you're no longer welcome to Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
Like that's to me, that's destruction. That's to me. But reciprocal tariffs is, he says, here is how it's gonna work. Whatever you charge us, we're going to charge you.
That's right.
Now, many people don't know China has a very high tariffs for America when it comes to us selling our cars in China. We can sell American cars in China.
Yeah.
Why? Because the tariffs is so high, we cannot. But yet we have a lot of their product and a lot of different countries' product that's just coming to America. Now, I believe if Trump has led with this to the people, say, hey, listen, you probably don't know much about tariffs. No, knowing him, you probably say, you probably don't know much about tariffs, right? But here's what we're going to do. Is what we're going to do. Whatever they charge us, we're going to charge them. And I feel like if he had led with that, people would probably resonate more than to say, hey, we're going to put 25% tariff in Canada, 25% tariff in Mexico, without the people know exactly
what it means.
What that means. What's your views on that?
I'm with you 100% on that. If we understand, we can appreciate it more. We would know what to look forward to. But when you say it in a certain way, and that's when I was working with candidates, we educate them to say things a certain way that it does blind you on what's happening.
Gotcha. You know, when it comes to language
is important.
It's very, very important. Extremely important. The way we say things matter.
Yes.
It does matter. And it's kind of, in some point, I don't want to say scary.
I was thinking scary.
You was thinking
I
scary?
was thinking scary.
Because someone can literally pass a message and it's extremely passive, and you stay in the surface of whatever is being said, but yet it's way more powerful than you think it is until it start affecting your life. Make sense? May I back this up with a very sensitive, you don't have to comment on this, by the way.
Okay.
You don't have to comment on
That's
this.
okay.
You don't have to comment on this. And I'm just gonna back it up in a very sensitive manner. DEI, right? I heard of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
Okay. And to me, I said, there is nothing wrong in this. We need to have a diversified legislative company. Why is it only white folks here? Why is it only black folks here? Why is it only Hispanic? Can we diversify on race? Okay. I think that's a good argument you can have, because that can show favoritism depending on the type of company. Equity. Well, everybody should be treated equal. Just because I'm black and you're white, that doesn't mean you should treat me any different. Inclusion. Well, I should feel inclusive, no matter what, my background may be, right? And then I start looking into it. Like I say, you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to. Start looking into it. And I forget what I was watching, and this individual was breaking it down. They were saying we are all the way in the bottom when it comes to black folks. We are all the way in the bottom of what DEI actually benefits black folks. Now, when I look at DEI, what I really feel like they're pushing is the ideology of affirmation. And if you're listening to this, I don't want to go too deep in this, but is the idea of affirming certain things, right? And I was actually, and I'll just give a quick example and I'll open if you want to make a comment. I was watching Governor DeSantis. He was getting heat for going against DEI. And they say, hey, he's actually taking Black history outside of school. They want to vanish Black history. They don't want to teach it in school anymore. And I bite into this. I'm like, no, that's kind of not fair. Like, if you do that, well, you're hurting the whole population. You're hurting the Black folks that are here. And DeSantis had a press conference or a briefing to challenge the mainstream media. And when he challenged them, I said, wow. So he opened a book of what was supposed to be in the Black history of the curriculum they're proposing to the school system. And it's all about transgenderism. It's all about gay marriages, men and men, women and women. It's all about, all these different things. Since when Black history had to do with all these things? So when he came live with these things and he started reading, and he said, would you want your child to be reading this for Black history? So when we talk about language, just to go back to language, the way we say things matter.
Absolutely.
And having such a passive, like DEI, for example, and I'm still speaking with people who don't understand the concept of DEI, just have a passive language like that for the greater good. But really, when you study it, it could be a whole lot of things that's underneath. Like I said, you don't have to comment on it, but you're more than welcome to.
And yes, and I understand where you're coming from on that one. But I think, once again, the way we say things and how we word it is important, because I remember back when you say DEI, I remember us marching in Tallahassee for affirmative action. That's what DEI is. Affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
And we spoke in front of the masses in order to be able to have the same opportunities as others with whatever we're doing, whether it's education, whether it's work, or whether it's finance. That's what DEI really is. Affirmative action.
Affirmative action. But
And we need it.
We need it. Don't get me wrong. We need it. And that aspect of things. However, do you believe it's really being pushed on all the sectors you just mentioned?
It has been pushed.
Mm-hmm.
When you're out there and you understand the different programs that are being offered, you know that it's there. When they said they're taking away DEI, yes, I understand that it's regarding, certain aspects of, sexuality or
Mm-hmm.
whatever case may be, but that's not the main thing. Main thing is education for our children. Head Start program for these kids so that they can get into kindergarten at a higher pace than what we would have the opportunity in the past to do.
Okay.
Finances, okay, helping us, having programs that are there for us. Now they're all taken away. You're taking away food, the system, from the community that needs it. So I do feel that we do need that program.
Okay.
We need the affirmative action to help all of us, not just
But-
one.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. If every single sector was to cover of what you just say of DEI, I totally agree. But can we agree? Maybe not, but can we agree the vast majority of what's being exposed is based on the sexuality aspect? Like, for example, before you answer, for example, you look at the recent what do we have every 4 years? The Olympics,
Mhm.
for example. I don't know if you saw like some of the stuff that was happening in the Olympics, but in a bigger scale, it seems like it's more about the sexuality that's being pushed instead of the finances, instead of all the other benefit it has to it.
Some segments or some organizations
Mhm.
are great at advertising.
Okay.
Okay. I would say that if the other areas would focus on advertising just as well as others, that program will be beneficial.
Mm.
And we will not be sitting here, saying, hey, this is all they're talking about.
But
That's all we're hearing.
that's all we're hearing. And you get one point, egg, which is advertising, which is,
Marketing.
yeah, marketing. And I believe if it was going towards like more advertising money, marketing money, what was going towards what actually matters most, like financially, for example, for DEI or the Black community, I don't think a program like that would really be taken away. But now, this current administration, all they have to sit on is everything I just mentioned to you.
Right. They're feeding on the negative, obviously.
Of course.
It's a marketing strategy.
It's politics, of
Yeah,
course.
marketing. So you feed on the negative, we're going to only understand the negative, but we're not going to understand all the other things that are happening in the community with that program.
Gotcha.
We got our colleges. You know how many universities, Black colleges,
Mhm.
are going to suffer because we're taking away the DEI program?
Okay,
Okay.
good. That's a good argument you can have.
Okay,
Yes.
self-sufficiency programs. You have beta program for single mothers. You have all kinds of other things in the community that program helps to
But
help.
it's not being marketed. And I feel like and that way it's really not to our benefits at all. Yeah, I think it goes to a certain aspect of that part of DEI that I believe the previous administration kind of let a very strong foundation for the new administration to actually come in and just do what they're doing right now. Let me ask you a quick question. How do you feel about getting rid of the Department of Education?
How do I feel about getting rid of the Department of Education?
Yeah, you think it's a good thing, bad thing, pros and cons? Would you say?
An uneducated community is a failed community.
Hmm?
That's my
That's
answer.
it. Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. And one argument they have, you don't have to comment on this. One argument they have is, well, why do we have the Department of Education? We should just leave everything to the state. So all the subsidy the government is providing, why do we have the Department of Education in the middle, which built a lot of bureaucrats? Let's remove it and let the state handle all of that.
Well, the Department of Education is supposed to be the liaison between the community and the state.
Okay.
So if you don't have that liaison, we're going to have situations where they're taking away from this area and adding to the other area. So, they were supposed to be the liaison.
It was supposed. Do you believe they played the role as the liaison?
Yes and no.
Explain.
They played the role because they did they stayed in their lane,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. But when you're dealing with politics, remember, you have to have everybody on the same page in order to move from point A to point B. So yes, they did do the job, but they didn't have the broad area that they needed.
Gotcha. Okay, which makes sense.
Yeah. So
I think that makes sense. All right.
as you dig in politics, you'll see more. It's not everything is not how it looks sometimes.
Oh, that's kind of like 90% of the time or more. There's more, way more, and a deeper level. And I mean, me personally, as I'm kind of like analyzing both sides of things and kind of bringing my own opinion, um, of course, I'm willing to learn more. There's a certain threshold I don't see myself going over. So, for example, at one point of my life, I went to a deep dive on finding out things, right? When it comes to religions, when it comes to, of course, politics, government, the school system. I start reading some books. Like one of the books one of our agent is reading is Outwitting the Devil, where he goes towards the school system. And, I start reading these things and I was alone. I was alone because people around me couldn't really understand what was going on in my mind.
Right.
Right. And it was such a dark moment. The reason I say it was a dark moment, it's because I was detached from the real
The
world.
world.
Yes. And people would look at me like, I remember going to work. This gentleman was like, "Are you okay, bro? You've been acting weird lately." No, yeah, I'm good. Like I start building some resentment for my surrounding. And I was kind of like a brick wall a lot of the time. And there's a threshold I never wanted to go above. And that threshold presented itself to me one day. And I was wise enough to not get too deep into that. So I can maybe share that with you another time. But when it comes to politics, it's just such a slippery slope. I see myself as being the individual when we talk about this subject is more of, okay, what is this side doing? I agree on that part and I don't agree on that part. That's just my own opinion where I stand. And what is that side doing? I think immigration, when it comes to the Trump administration, I am against it about like 80 to 90% of what they do, how they treat immigrants. That's my view. But in the same token, I balance it in a way and said, okay, from his perspective, what is he looking to accomplish?
What is he looking for? Yeah.
So I believe when we don't have this kind of thinking, we kind of go too much in our emotions and it just becomes scary at that point.
Right. That's why they have the subject. You don't talk politics and religion in the workplace. That's why it's not easy, and especially in the environment that I'm in, I'm hearing everyone's opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to just sit there and just
Kind of like,
I
okay,
understand
I understand.
what's going on, but it's a balance. You,
It
you just
is.
got to balance.
It is.
And I heard a story from a gentleman a couple months ago, and he was talking about balance.
Mm-hmm.
That when you're in politics, you just can't get so upset and
Yeah.
out of shape based on what you hear, because that's not what it's all about.
True. It's true. And they make a lot of money and a lot of decision based on your emotions as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, listen, I believe we had a good time today. Would you agree we had a good conversation?
I had a good time.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
this was the Denisier Effect podcast, and would love to hear your opinion. So whether you're watching this, you agree or you disagree, we want to know your opinion. So comment below. Whether you're watching a clip on TikTok or Facebook, it doesn't matter. Tell us what you think. And if you'd like for us to discuss a certain subject, put it in the comment or reach out to us directly through messaging. With that being said, Shirley, it was great having you in the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think we should do this more often.
We should.
All right. God bless everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.